AI and what's on your mind to tell us today.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Krista, for your work here and getting this all set up. And you can do this. Appreciate that as well, too. And thanks to everybody who's joining us today and talking about this. Last night I was looking at something in terms of AI implementation and things like that. I came across a post on LinkedIn that really resonated with me. And it was the idea of going from one day to day one when it comes with AI. And that's really, to me, that's kind of the heart of what this Wednesday webinar series is about, is taking it from that one day futuristic, one day I'll get to that, one day I'll figure out how to learn AI, to now this is day one. And it might be day one, times 100 for some of you guys out there. This might be day one for a lot of you too, which is totally fine. Glad you can start here. So I want to show you a couple things I think is going to elevate how you're using AI, and specifically within the topic of writing and summarizing and drafting different reports like that, which is important for local government. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between the PowerPoint presentation and some tools that we can kind of see the different tools. Really what I want to do for this, if you think about this day one, is I want to give you all 3 different AI tools. These are popular AI tools, and one of them is popular kind of in the media, but doesn't get as much love as some of the other tools do. But I want to give you 3 AI tools that you can start using in local government. I also want to give you 3 different prompts that you can use and plug and play right away. You can use these prompts, you can refine them, you can do whatever you want with them, but these are prompts that are going to enable you to really take that day one approach to learning AI and leveraging AI in local government. And then, of course, we're going to look at 3 things. So if you haven't caught on by now, there's a theme of 3s here. So we're looking at writing. How does that work with writing? How does it look with researching? There's some really, really powerful research tools out there right now that have been developed really over the past 60 days that I think are really powerful for local government. And then finally, summarizing. So the first thing we're going to look at is a prompt. I'm going to put this prompt into ChatGPT. I'll share my screen now you can see this. And what we're doing here is there's a lot of discussion on perfect prompting or prompt engineering. And that can be a barrier to that day one, right? I gotta get the perfect prompt so I can, unlock the full potential. This prompt right here of saying, here's my prompt, rewrite it so it's clear, more actionable, is a golden key to unlock prompting across the board. So I'll show you what this looks like here. I'm gonna get out of the presentation, go to ChatGPT. I'm gonna say, here's my prompt, rewrite it so it's more clear and actionable. And then colon, and I'll do a backspace here, a couple lines, that way it knows it's a new prompt. I'm going to say in the prompt, I'm going to say, I need to write a press release for our new council goals for FY26. We are focusing on quality of life, public safety, and economic development. Okay, so I'll hit this, hit it, get going, and it'll help me write a better prompt for this, right? So now I have a much better prompt. So I need to draft a concise press release announcing our city council's new strategic goals for fiscal year 26, highlight the council's priorities, enhancing quality of life, strengthening public safety, and driving economic development, include clear messaging suitable for public communication. So now what I can do is I can take this, I can either hit this box right here, or I can just copy, paste this prompt in here, and then we're off to the races. So what it's doing for me right now, and you'll see it popped up that screen, what it did for me on this case is it automatically put it into a tool called Canvas. If it doesn't open up automatically like this, you can ask ChatGPT to open in Canvas. Now what Canvas does, and the reason why I wanted to show this example, is Canvas allows me to edit things here right in this document. So for instance, on quality of life, it talks about expanding parks, recreational facilities. And let's say I want to add expanding trails and bikeability. So I can edit that right there, right into Canvas, right? I can do it all at once. I can right click here. It thinks bikeability is likability. So I'll just add a hyphen there. I can also do this right here. And maybe on this one, I want to ask ChatGPT to focus on increasing patrols in neighborhoods and community engagement through community paramedicine programs in the fire department. So now I can also prompt it this way as well and have it adjust things on the fly this way too. If I don't know exactly what I want to say, I can put the prompt into ChatGPT and do it that way. So to me, this is a phenomenal way to edit documents or edit things right here on the fly. So when it's all said and done, you'll see this button up here. I can copy this right here, or I can share it. So I can share this, the document. I can copy this whole thing, put this into a Word document, make sure it's good to go in terms of headers or things like that, the formatting that maybe we want, or other features like that, right? I can also take this thing right here too. So I'll close out here and say this is a press release, and say we want to adjust this for a tweet or an X post instead of the longer one. So I can take this and say, take the press release and summarize for a X/Twitter post. So there we go. We can take that whole thing and summarize it that way. We can also do the same thing then with a Facebook post or other types of social media posts. So we took basically what we were able to do with this one is we were able to take a prompt that was not well written and then purposely not well written, rewrite it using ChatGPT, and then put that into Canvas, which was super helpful. And if there's ever time, so for instance, right here on this one, if it's not opening Canvas, you can say open in Canvas so I can edit. And there you go. Now it opens in Canvas for you. So if it doesn't open up automatically, that's the prompt, open in Canvas, and you can edit that automatically. So that to me is a super, super helpful tool, especially when you're writing or drafting. The ability to be able to go and draft and add your flavor to things without having to rely solely on prompting or on AI generated things is super helpful. It's more of a collaboration in that regard when it comes to writing, which if you watch the last one on the last month's webinar on writing, collaboration, I think is a really, really important thing when it comes to AI writing. So that's a super, super helpful one. If you're not familiar with ChatGPT, probably a lot of us are already familiar with that one, but those different tools like that, like the Canvas side of things is really powerful, especially if you're doing any type of writing here. So I'm gonna go back over here and share my slide again here. Here we go. All right, so we did that one. There's the Canvas in case you want to see what that looks like. That's where it comes up. We went through that already. So here's the next one that's extremely helpful. And this is helpful for folks like myself who I oversee the public safety departments for the city of Maricopa, Arizona. It's a wonderful job. I really like doing it. I work with some really phenomenal and really excellent fire chief and police chief and all the way down the line to some really, really good people. The thing is, when it comes to certain concepts or things like that, I've never been a firefighter before. I've never been a police officer before. So some of these different concepts like NFPA regulations or what a thermal imaging camera is or things like that is somewhat foreign to me. And so in order to engage in some kind of discussion, right, not relying on ChatGPT to be the end all be all, because we have subject matter experts for, but to have a baseline to understand the basic terminology and concepts, a prompt like this is extremely helpful, right? Especially when you're talking to people about new ideas or things like that. It's extremely, extremely helpful. So in this prompt, what we're going to do is we're going to put this prompt, explain how, and then you insert anything you want to, a concept, a tool, an idea, anything like that. Explain how this works. And you can go beyond this prompt too. You can say, explain how this works to a 10-year-old, to a someone with this background, or whatever. You can refine it that way. Personal story for my end of things. I have a fifth grader who is starting to learn algebra right now, and it's been a minute since I've looked at algebra books myself. So I had to use ChatGPT to go in and explain to me how does, what is y equals mx, or things like that, or the different formulas that are in there. And then I had to go and say, okay, now explain this to a 10-year-old. And I was able to do that. And so the ability to break this down into actionable steps and understand fully what different concepts mean can be extremely helpful. So let's play on with this one. For this one, we're going to use a tool called Gemini. So I'll pull this up here. And here's Gemini right here. And again, we're going to ask it, explain how the NFPA works as a compliance regulation for fire departments. So now it's giving us some basic understanding of how NFPA works. One of the things that talk about a lot is AHJs, authorities having jurisdiction. And so maybe we want to highlight more of this. I take this right here. I can modify selected text. I can make this longer, regenerate, or things like that. So maybe we want to just take this right here, and I'm going to copy this and say, explain what authorities having jurisdictions are. We can look at this, right? We can even drill down further, right? And we can say, what's the difference for AHJs in Texas versus Arizona? So some similarities, some code on the code side, potential differences, state level variations, local autonomy, specific regulations. So I'm able to go drill down into different topics and understand things. Again, I'm not looking, when you use ChatGPT or use Gemini in this situation, or use AI to do these types of research, it's important to note too that it's not going to take you from knowing nothing to being an expert. We want to avoid that whole Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where if you learn a little bit of things, we think we know everything based on the little we know. And so we want a little bit of humility with this too as well. But really what I look at this for is this allows me, basically having that summary of information allows me to have a robust conversation, right? Where I'm starting with at least something in mind when I'm going and talking to our fire chief, I'm going talking to our police chief, or maybe it's something within, with the police chief, maybe we're discussing something in regards to traffic control. And so there's a little bit of engineering involved there from the traffic side of things, or road construction on that side of things. And so by having a basic understanding, a basic summary of that idea, it really helps us to be able to have robust conversations, right? This way we're not talking past each other. We're starting on some kind of level playing field, at least with terminology, which is extremely, extremely helpful to be able to level up the communication side, summarize the topic, understand what you're talking about, and then we can go in and ask, maybe more refined questions. So instead of having a meeting where I'm asking, hey, what is AHJ? What is authorities having jurisdiction? I have a basic idea of it, and now I can move on to the next level and not have to waste as much time in that meeting asking questions that maybe I could already know the answer to. And full disclosure, I still ask those questions because it's always good to hear from the subject matter expert on things like that. But at least we have a basic understanding going forward, which is super, super helpful. So the next one I'll show you, and this one's going to take a little bit longer time to walk through and show. This next prompt is pretty robust. I'm going to include on the PowerPoint slides, I've included a link and a QR code, which if you want to grab your phones out, if you're watching this on a computer or on anything like that, if you want to take your phones out and get ready to scan the QR code, this is a phenomenal prompt. It's about a 3-page prompt that we're going to look at here. And this one is extremely helpful for researching. I talked a little bit before about some of the new researching tools that are out there. If you're not familiar with it already, if it's not hit your news waves or your LinkedIn feeds or things like that, a lot of these different AI companies have come out with something called deep research. And deep research is it's an incredible tool. And what I want to give you guys is the ability to unlock its full potential right now. That way you have a prompt template that you can use for literally any type of research project. And with something like this, there's only so much you can say before you show things. So I'm going to share my screen once again, talk through it a little bit, and then I'll show you what the deep research prompt is all about, that prompt template that you can use for researching information and going forward there. So here is the deep research prompt right here. Here it is. If you want to take a look at this, go grab your QR code out. I'll give you a couple seconds here to be able to do that. Scan that QR code. We'll pop up a Word document that has the prompt in it, or that link right there, that tiny URL link is the same thing as the QR code. So hopefully by now you've had that. If you want to follow along and take a look at this, I'm going to do the same thing here too. So I'm going to exit out of here. And I'm just going to copy this thing right here, so the whole thing, and I'm going to put it here into this document right here, or into the URL. Let's try this one more time. And that did not work. Let's try this here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to do this off the screen here for a quick second, so bear with me. The QR code does work. I was playing with it last night. The QR code does actually work. So that one is good to go. I'm going to go here and open it back up on my end over here. Here we go. Okay. All right. Now we're working right here. So here's the prompt template. And I've created prompt templates in here for this. There's a lot of different AI tools that have deep research. So Gemini has one, Perplexity has one, ChatGPT has one. I really would love for you all to use these and to get some use out of it. This is basically just the prompt template that you can then use for anything like that. So I'm going to take this prompt template right here. I'm going to use one for Gemini for now. We'll put it into a different program, but it'll be fine. So I'm going to copy this right here. Here's the entire prompt template. Copy this, and then I'm going to go into ChatGPT. So I'm over here now in ChatGPT. I'm going to create a new one right here, and I'm going to say, using this prompt template, create a deep research prompt to look at, and let's look at, trying to think what the word of it is, the credentialing program for police departments. We'll just say credentialing programs in police departments to evaluate their effectiveness, cost, and so effectiveness, we'll say effectiveness and cost for right now. That's good enough for now. And here's the template right here. Paste the entire thing in there. And now it'll create a detailed research prompt for me that I'm going to put into a different program. But we're going to use a program called Grok, which came out with a new model right now, a new AI model, which has been highly rated right now in terms of what it's able to produce. So I want to show you what that looks like. Again, people hear about Grok a lot because of the individual behind it, but it's actually a really powerful AI tool, and I'm starting to use it and starting to become really in love with it because it's a really, really good AI tool. So I'm going to take this entire thing right here, copy this entire thing. So right click, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go into Grok. Here's Grok, and you can use the same thing a lot. Again, Gemini has a deep research prompt, deep research platform. Perplexity does, ChatGPT does. So all of them have this. I'm going to paste this right here and click deep search. So here we go, hit enter, and it's going to take some time to do that. While it's doing that, I'll show you where the other deep research prompts are, or the deep research ones are for ChatGPT and stuff like that. So if I go back to ChatGPT again, new prompt, if you want to do the same thing here, you would just highlight right here, click there, and then paste your prompt in there for deep research and hit go. And the same thing then too, if I'm over here on Gemini, so I'll add a new tab, Gemini right here. This was a little harder to find, not as intuitive as Grok and ChatGPT are, but again, the same thing, click this button right here, go down deep research right there. And then last but not least, Perplexity AI, the same thing. You put your prompt in here, click this drop-down menu, and then click deep research. And then you put your prompt in there and have it go. So let's go over here. You can see it's going through and you can see what it's doing here, right? We're at 87 different web pages that it's using so far. And you can click right here. You can see what it's looking at. If you do the same thing, so for instance, if I did the same thing here on ChatGPT, I'll show you this here in a second, because it's actually interesting what it's doing in the background, which is helpful. So here it's asking me clarifying questions here, which ChatGPT likes to do. Gemini kind of does the same thing too, asking some clarifying questions. And I'm just going to say, just move forward, please. And what it will do, and you can actually see on the ChatGPT side, the different quote unquote thought process that it's having as it's researching, which is extremely interesting. In fact, just watching the research side of things is actually somewhat helpful for me too. So that way, when I'm researching a topic, I learn from how ChatGPT is approaching the topic or what questions it's asking on the back end of things as well too. Extremely, extremely powerful tool. And it'll produce a pretty comprehensive document with sourcing, with information, things like that. So here we have it. Here's the full Grok presentation. I'm gonna close out the search results for now. So you can see we have a pretty comprehensive report here on key points, overview, effectiveness and impact, costs and challenges, unexpected details, right? So we have this, also comes with links too. So here, this hyperlink right here, you could click this and it'll pull up this document right here, right? That was cited there. You also have the full citations here as well too. So if you want to see everything, here's all the key citations. It puts a table summary of key findings and things like that. Super, super powerful. The other one too, I want to mention as well, the Gemini side of things, when you're using deep research in Gemini, you have the ability to export that document or export that research to a Google Docs, which is super, super helpful. So if you are on a Google platform as a city, or if an organization is a Google type of organization, that can be super helpful, because then you're not having to copy, paste, and do the formatting issues like you would with maybe a ChatGPT to a Google Doc, or from a Grok to a Google Doc. That connection between Gemini and your Google portfolio can be super, super powerful. So I'll show you a couple of things here in terms of what it's doing, right? So you can see on this side, you can see the activity that ChatGPT is coming up with. So it's breaking it down. It's searching for CALIA accreditation, community trust, CALIA. That's what I was looking for, CALIA. That had a brain barrier there. I couldn't quite think what that word was. So it's looking at different things, weighing the dissertation from Walden, trying another way to access content from a paywall local news site, seeing if research supports accreditation's impact on misconduct reduction. And then here too, it even says, curious about specific research areas related to police accreditation, like misconduct and community trust, to gain deeper insights and refine my understanding. So it's finding these different things, and you can kind of see how it's looking at how it's approaching the topic, how it's approaching the research at hand to better understand what exactly am I looking for? What exactly am I doing? How am I finding this information? And even just looking at the different activity that ChatGPT comes up with. Gemini does something very similar with this too, is extremely helpful and extremely interesting. I use Grok. So in terms of kind of these different deep research tools, there's a lot of ones out there. And so in terms of which ones are the best or what things like that, the Perplexity and Grok are probably the fastest at deep research or deep search, I think is what Grok calls it. It's the fastest, but it's not the most comprehensive. So in terms of if you need something fast, I would recommend a Grok or a Perplexity for that. If you have the time and you need more time for this and you want it something a little more robust, then Gemini and ChatGPT are probably the ones you want to use. It's, you'll have a much larger document at the end of the day with ChatGPT and Gemini than the other ones. And you can see here too, right? We have 18 sources right now compared to this one right here. The key sources, I think, was about, what we're looking at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 15 or so sources there. But super, super helpful. Again, taking that idea of you summarize a topic we talked about before, right? With summarizing things or asking, explain how this concept works, right? So maybe you have something on, we're looking at, authorities having jurisdiction, and you have the basic summary of it, but you want to take that next step to better understand this in its full concept and really dig deep into a certain topic. That's where these deep research prompts really, really come into play and help out. And again, too, just this list of what it did as well, the browsing results or things like that, it's extremely helpful, because one of the things we want to do when it comes to any type of things written by AI, because AI can hallucinate, it can create fictitious results. We've seen the different headlines when it comes to, I think there's that famous one in regards to the attorney who wrote his case brief in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT came up with case law that didn't actually exist. And so having the ability to double check the work and having the sources where I can go in, I can see, okay, all right, it says right here that studies and effectiveness are sparse, with most within the past 5 years showing limited direct links to specific performance metrics. And this one found only 19 peer-reviewed studies using inferential statistics. So I can actually click on this, read the actual article myself, or do a summary of the article from what we found before, summarize the whole thing, and then it can better understand and double check the work to make sure it is accurate and relevant. Because sometimes, even with deep research tools too, it can hallucinate. So having that ability to be able to go in and double check the references and double check the work is extremely, extremely important for anything we're producing with AI generated work or things like that. So once this is all done, it's almost done here. I can even take this thing right here, right? So to kind of go full circle back to what we're talking about before, I could take this whole thing, copy this entire thing right here, copy this whole thing right here, right click, copy. I'll go to ChatGPT again and say, open this in Canvas so I can edit. Paste it in there. And now it's putting that entire thing into Canvas for me, making some slight variations. You can see it talks about Clarksville's police department, which I don't believe was discussed. Was it discussed here? Yeah, I don't believe it was discussed in this one. Oh, it was right here. Okay, I stand corrected. Here we go. So we can go ahead and we can edit this. So for instance, if there's things that aren't necessarily relevant to the context that you're researching for. So if for whatever reason it was putting stuff in there regards to the fire department accreditation, you could do that way. Or for instance, if I highlight, this right here, it's citing a Wikipedia study or Wikipedia citation. So maybe you don't want to use Wikipedia as a source. So I can just take that. I could delete that out as well here too. So I could just take this. All right, I'm not using Wikipedia as a source, delete that out, and then I can be off to the races that way. So this one is almost done here. And when it's, hopefully we get it done before our time's up. So I want to be able to show you the difference between the two the two documents, the two research tools. So what I'm going to do here is, normally we have Q&A kind of towards the end. I want to open up for any Q&A now, if that's okay, Mike. And then once this is completed, we can come back and show the differences between the two. If there's any type of questions in the chat or things like that.
Yeah, for sure, Micah. Well, of course, I think the most important question we've had so far is based on what you told us, did your son's algebra grades go up once you started using ChatGPT?
I, a little bit. We're still in the uptick phase, so we're still working on it. It's probably more to do with my ability to teach the concept than it is ChatGPT's ability to understand and break it down. So probably more reflection of his dad than it is ChatGPT.
I'm thinking my kids might have had a lot better grades if I would have had that to use sometime back. Here's
Yeah.
another question, a quick one. Using Canva, like what you've showed us with ChatGPT, does that require a subscription?
Yes. So that one requires that $20 plus subscription to it. And one thing on the plus subscription too for ChatGPT, right now, I haven't double checked to see if this is the case or not yet, but right when it first rolled out, deep research was under the $200 pro subscription for ChatGPT. But Sam Altman made an announcement a couple of weeks ago that they were going to roll that out to plus subscribers, the $20 a month subscribing. So if it's still in the $200 limit, that's under that one. Google and Grok and Perplexity, they all have that under their basic subscription package. And in fact, I believe Grok actually might still be free right now, where you can use that deep research or deep search for free.
Okay. Here's another question, and I've heard this from various sources. Um, Somebody saying, their IT department is very reticent to grant access to some of these AI platforms, and wondering like how did you navigate that at Maricopa? Because, and I've heard this more than once, people are using their own subscriptions, their own devices for it, which of course creates a set of questions too. But
Mhm.
how have you navigated that? Are these being vetted out well in your city?
So we looked at it from this perspective of the type of data that we're putting into the platform more so than the platform itself, right? There are so many platforms, and even if I'm talking to anyone from an IT background, my advice would be there are so many platforms out there that having some kind of policy or some kind of mandate to have no AI tools, it's going to be extremely hard to manage because new ones pop up every single day. So managing that on the management side of things is almost impossible. So if we can start the conversation on data protection and data privacy and what should go on the platform, I think it opens up opportunities for how we're using different AI tools or things like that. Now, personally, because I use ChatGPT, these different tools personally and professionally, I pay for all these myself. So the city doesn't pay for these tools. I do it myself because I find use out of it, for helping my kid with his homework or things like that. And so having one platform for myself to use across the board is helpful for my end of things.
So it might be even people could use AI to find and replicate good AI policies for local governments,
Yeah,
right?
it really, really, really could. Um, my advice though is if you're running into roadblocks with IT, don't ignore that. Don't, make sure that you're working collaboratively with IT, with your legal teams to understand what your organization's policies and really risk tolerance is for these separate tools. So don't run afoul of IT or your legal team. If they say no, take that for now, and you can go through the different steps to maybe appeal that decision, but don't ignore that, please.
Yeah, for sure. You got to work with your team. So, okay, great. I don't know if we have any other questions right now. Chris, have you have any questions that you've seen come up?
I don't think so. I just did a quick look, and I don't see any additional questions, but
Well,
All
perfect,
right.
because the ChatGPT side of things is done, so that was perfect. I want to give a couple minutes for ChatGPT to finish up its deep research. And what you'll see here on the ChatGPT side, you'll see just how much more robust this is, right? If we looked over here on the Grok, I kind of look at this and how many scrolls it takes to go through the document. It's pretty short here. But now in ChatGPT, you can see it's a huge summary. There's a bunch of sources from Police One, Walden, Policing Institute, and then it goes into detailed analysis. different sections there. Comparative analysis of successful credentialing models. Looks at state level accreditation programs and CALIA, so kind of looking at both sides of things. Go down more, looks at challenges and solutions in implementing credentialing programs. So you can see this is a very, very comprehensive research document that the whole thing put together. And it's probably on average, I would say it's, ChatGPT tends to give me about 12 to 15 or so, sometimes as high as 20 pages of research that it's producing for me. I can go ahead and look at that. And again, the same thing, I can edit it. I can look at what makes sense for my outcomes, for what I'm trying to accomplish in the research I'm understanding. But this ability to have basically creating your own white paper on any given topic is a great way to quickly come up to speed on a certain topic. Or if you're looking at, what's the impact, something we're looking at here in Arizona is what's the impact of the different reductions to state shared revenues, and how other cities manage that, right? So other cities that maybe right now Arizona's looking at an idea to eliminate sales tax on perishable foods or things like that, or consumable foods. So you're looking at, okay, for other cities that have done something like that, other states that have eliminated food sales tax, how had those cities recouped that revenue? What were their strategies to understand? And I can look at other states. I don't know if the states have done it, but for example, look at what did Colorado do? How did cities in Colorado overcome that reduction in revenue? What were their strategies to learn from? How did cities in California do that? What were their strategies? And also too, to understand what was the timeline for how long it took to recover that lost revenue, and what did the cities do in the interim between when they were able to recover the revenue versus when they were down, that revenue share that they had from the food sales tax or things like that. So this ability, and it's again extremely helpful, because as right now in Arizona, we're in the middle of our legislation season right now, and so as different bills are proposed and different things take shape and have movement, to understand, okay, how did other cities navigate similar waters, or what were their techniques, what were their processes, to either fight that proposal and be successful, or what were the lessons learned from those who try to fight it but were not successful. And then if the bill is passed into law, how did cities go about understanding how that affect other cities, how they recover, how they recuperate, is extremely, extremely helpful. Because I think about ChatGPT is basically being a giant listserv. We all love our listservs in local government, where we can go on and ask, hey, does anybody have a policy on sick leave? And we can send out to our different colleagues and get feedback here. Well, ChatGPT is basically doing that for us, where it's finding that information. It's always good to collaborate and network with people too. So listservs I don't think are necessarily a thing of the past, but the ability to get this in a moment's notice, right, is extremely, extremely helpful. If with the listserv, I'm limited to how many people are on my listserv, as well as how many people see the email in time, and how many people actually respond back to me. So I'm limited in the responses that I'm getting automatically. Where ChatGPT and tools like deep search for Grok, deep research on Perplexity, deep research on Gemini, I'm able to pull that information in, understand it, figure out what the best path forward is for our local context, but have some really robust actionable ideas based on proven strategies as well too, based on what actually has worked in the past, which is extremely, extremely helpful. So with that, Mike, I'm gonna turn things back over to you. If there's any other additional comments, questions, happy to answer any of them.
Well, Micah, thank you so much. I was just thinking about a city we worked with a while back that they had a couple of new elected officials that really got elected on the platform of, we want to cut city spending, idea that there's waste inside the city. And they had so many requests of staff for research that they actually drove up costs, because staff was having to pay people overtime to do all this research. Fast forward now, not that we want to say that's a right way to approach things, but we just have new tools with AI that cities really should be taking advantage of, because the ability to do these things and do them quickly has just been multiplied. tremendously.
Absolutely. And the ability to have time to think, Mike, I think is one of the most underrated um, benefits and luxuries in local government. Just having the ability to think and really analyze the data instead of going from request to request. Sometimes you want to take a step back to see, okay, are these requests related to each other? Is there a solution beyond just solving this one request? So for the council member looking at efficiency or wanting to avoid waste, if all we're doing is researching different topics, we don't have the ability to kind of step back and say, okay, well, what are we, are we wasting taxpayer dollars? Is there ways for us to be more efficient? And if you just go from request to request, you don't have that ability to really think and take a step back and see the big picture here.
For sure. That's great, Mike. I really got a lot out of this one. Like always, I want to just say as a reminder, Krista, tell us about TLG, because these are things we're going to be dealing with at TLG next month.
Yes, it's coming up in April, just a few short weeks away. Micah, you will be there. I think we were just talking about it right before this. So if nothing else, you get a chance to meet Micah Gaudette, the Micah Gaudette, in person, and Mike Mowry. I mean, if that's not a reason to go to a conference, I don't know what is. And I'll put the link to register in the chat as well.
Yeah, I want to encourage you to, because the Alliance for Innovation, our nonprofit that is focused on innovation for local governments, since Troy Riggs has become the executive director, we're leaning even more into the importance of AI, making use of it. It's not the only thing that promotes innovation for sure, but it's a helpful tool. And if you want to be around people that are talking about it, kind of on the cutting edge of it, AFI and the TLG conference, which will be in Phoenix, well, actually, I should say Scottsdale, April 7th to the 9th, that's the place to be. So, Micah, once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Krista, for all of your work and making this happen, and everyone that has been a part of it. We are grateful for you in local government and the work that you do, and we're proud to be partners with you, helping you to be even more effective. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, great week, and we'll see you down the road.